EFL Overseas League at Park House in central London, where the question and answer session with Senator David Coltart, the Minister of Education and Sport in Zimbabwe, has just ended. Can you just introduce yourself, please?
Okay, my name is Grace Mupfurutsa, and I'm a human rights activist and defender. I'm also the chairperson for Restoration of Human Rights, which is an organization that works here in the United Kingdom, in South Africa, but it's actually registered in Zimbabwe. We're found on the website www.rawzim.org.
Okay, and what brings you here to this event, the question and answer session?
Well, I found it really interesting that the minister was willing to have this platform, and education is one of the basic human rights. And I wanted to know what the minister had to say about that, and I also wanted to find out how the diaspora is envisaged to fit in to the program. So that's the main reason why I came.
Do you think your questions have been answered, because there's been a lot of criticism about the Ministry of Sports and Education?
I'm not sure where the criticism stems, because Zimbabwe is a country which had really hit rock bottom. So we're starting from the very basics. And I don't think anybody has ever experienced anything like what Zimbabwe has experienced. So our experience is quite unique. So whatever everybody's doing, I perceive them to be doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And I found the minister very open, very transparent. He answered a lot of questions. There isn't one question that he declined to answer. He was very open, and he gave the answers that actually satisfied me about what the government is looking to do, and that is the government of national unity. So it's not just about him as a person, but it's the collective.
Okay. And you, as a Zimbabwean based in the United Kingdom, what input will you have towards Zimbabwe's education and sport?
Well, we already, as an organization, have involvement, because our organization is supporting women, particularly in the high-density suburbs. We are in Mufakose, and we are also in Glenora, and we are helping women who are single parents at the moment, and we're helping them to look at their situations, gain a reasonable amount of capital to inject into a business, so they can provide education basics for their families without having to rely on other less socially acceptable means of getting resources. So some people are widows because some people are single parents because they're widows. Some people are single parents because maybe the father of the children left them. And so we are working with about 344 women within Zimbabwe, trying to bridge that gap. So what the minister had to say was absolutely relevant, and it's actually given me insights into how we can support his initiatives, but also directed at the target group that we are focusing on for the next year.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I'd just like to ask you one question. Which schools did you go to in Zimbabwe?
Well, I was sent to education in Chishawasha Mission, because I started school in 1978, before the independence of Zimbabwe. And when independence was gained, I went to Marlborough Primary School, and I was the first brown girl in that school, and all the white people were very alarmed at my arrival. And then with the years, other people started joining in, and the transition happened. And then I went to Marlborough High School.
Okay. The next question now is, what assistance have you given to the 3 schools that you attended? Have you assisted them in any way to keep the standards, support them?
I haven't targeted any attention to those schools, because they are the Group A schools, so they're actually much better off. My efforts are focused on the high-density suburb schools, because they are the areas which have got deprivation. And they are the areas where people who've got lesser incomes tend to go. So in Zimbabwe, they refer to as the B schools.
Okay.
So I think my efforts are better targeted in that area, and also rural schools.
Yes, I understand. So have you ever helped any of those schools, then the underprivileged schools?
Oh, absolutely. We have.
What have you done? Can you name any few schools that you've helped?
Okay, we've actually, with my son, I have a son who's now 12, but about 5 years ago, we went to his primary school, and we told the teachers that he wanted to raise resources for a school in Weza, because our rural area is Chivuda. So he talked to his librarian, and when they decant books after certain new editions come in, and I went to the school after an invitation, and we filled the boot of my car with good quality books, but they were no longer required in the school that he was attending to in Luton. And we collected those and we gave them to one member who was working with the MP in Wether. And those books were actually sent for those underprivileged children. We didn't know any of the children, we didn't know the head teacher, but it was a donation that was triggered off by my son at that time. So that's part of rural engagement. I buy books and I've got an extensive library at home, and as I make my plans, we want to take those books to Zimbabwe and take them to Chivu because my parents built a shop and we want to turn that into a resource center because we haven't engaged in business, but as a family we've agreed that that place will be a center for education and also a place where people can have vocational skills training. So what the minister was talking about is also relevant. So we've got books on sewing, photography, cookery, and so on. So that will actually be relevant. And obviously, indirectly, when we're helping the women in those high-density suburbs, they're going to provide a quality of life for their children, which means that their children are going to be direct beneficiaries from their entrepreneurial activities, and they won't be excluded from school because they will actually be having their school fees paid.
Okay. Do you have a word or message to other Zimbabweans who are based all over the world about how they can assist the education system in Zimbabwe and the sports? For example, what you've just spoken about, do you have any special message to encourage them?
I think as Zimbabweans, we really need to just start at the very basics. Just help one person at a time. Yeah, so sometimes it's not about getting into a big group, but just finding one family or one child, pay their school fees, send them books, make sure that they've got uniforms, and build a relationship with that family. When you've done that aspect, find another one and the next one. Because school fees is incredibly affordable. The uniforms are incredibly affordable. Even if it's about just moral support, you pick up the phone and talk to somebody and give them that upliftment, because that's what people need. And you know, the divide between the diasporans and people at home needs to be bridged in those very intimate kind of relationships. And sometimes it doesn't cost money, and I don't think people should shy away from helping because of costs.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are at the Overseas Royal League in central London, where the question and answer session is just ended with the Senator David Coltart, the Minister of Education and Sports in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.